Great, thanks, Sandy. I'm here to want to provide a little bit of background with respect to collaborative communities and our center's involvement in them, as well as the work specifically within this collaborative community and how it relates to the larger work within the ecosystem. In a presentation which I promised to be very light on acronyms and initialisms, but as we look at what CDRH, our Center of Devices Radiological Health, looks for in a collaborative community, it's a continuing forum in which private and public sector members, which can include the FDA, work together on medical device challenges to achieve common objectives and outcomes, convened by interested stakeholders, and may exist indefinitely and produce deliverables as needed and tackle challenges with broad impacts. Collaborative communities typically include diverse, relevant organizations and individuals impacted by a specific topic, including patients, care partners, academics, healthcare providers, payers, as well as the federal and state agencies. Industry also could be engaged within collaborative communities. Next slide, please. So here we sit within the NEST collaborative community, and FDA recognized the NEST collaborative community as one with CDRH participating in 2019. The NEST collaborative community is comprised of diverse participants sharing the common objectives and addressing common challenges, and including payers, FDA, clinician groups, industry, research organizations, health systems, patient groups. Really identifying issues within our medical device ecosystem and with health technology ecosystem for collective action. Convening stakeholders like we are today to outline strategies, as well as engaging the ecosystem to act upon what we identify and what recommendations are put forth, and implement those recommendations. And also, most importantly, really monitoring the impact of our work for follow-on efforts. Next slide, please. CDRH believes collaborative communities can really contribute to improvements in important areas affecting U.S. patients and healthcare. And we participate in these efforts that could further agency goals of ensuring that patients in the United States ultimately have access to high quality, safe, and effective medical devices of public health importance, first in world. While each collaborative community may be unique, they may encounter similar needs and challenges as they work through these early stages of formation. So when our center participates in a collaborative community, we examine whether we have all the relevant community representatives and conveners, such as NEST here today, that there are regular meetings and sustained engagement. This is the second annual meeting that we're having within this collaborative community. If there's a public health impact of achieving shared outcomes and challenges, and the speakers and discussants today will be certainly talking about the impact of the utilization, widespread utilization of UDI. Also, we assess whether the collaborative community is meeting its metrics, and I'll be going through some of the questions that we asked ourselves next here. And this is all aimed at the collaborative community having an approach which can be more effective than other approaches that the ecosystem could take on. So as we assess the impact of what we're doing, it's always important to understand why we're here and how we know if we're being successful. Our center asks ourselves, and this is included in our toolkit that can be found on the website, 3 questions. One is the collaborative community advancing collaboration maturity? 2, what impact is the collaborative community having on a focus area? And 3, how well is the collaborative community contributing to achieving the members' vision? As we look to see how it's advancing collaboration and maturity, the first question, the intention of our communities is to provide a forum to build an operating through for engagement, trust, transparency, democracy, inclusiveness, and reciprocity. It's important that progress be made towards advancing the values and practice that enable collaboration, maturity, and success within this community. As we look at the impact we're having in a focus area, it's important for us to have the greatest impact when the members are working collectively together to identify and solve the problems that directly impact our ecosystem. So we're looking at the impact of our work, outcomes, and progress of our community in this focus area. What steps are we making towards solving the challenge, in this case, the UDI challenge? And finally, the third question I mentioned, which is how well our community is contributing towards achieving the members' vision. The members are the driving factor here. Participation and support of this collaborative community, directly, their work directly contributes to us all effectively accomplishing the vision for the work. And so we really are looking for members finding the value in the collaborative community itself. And so, this really drives towards the objectives, right, of what NEST has laid out for the collaborative community and that we've all kind of worked towards. Next slide, please. So the NEST collaborative community objectives are coalesce the diverse medical device stakeholders around initiatives that further the utilization and beneficial impact of real-world evidence to find a common path forward on the tough road and broad questions and present leadership and consensus-driven guidance to the community. And importantly is today, provide a forum for the stakeholders to work proactively to speed innovation and enhance the safety and effectiveness of medical devices and health technology. And obviously taking on UDI as the first work stream under the collaborative community. Next slide, please. So I am the federal liaison to this collaborative community. Our center director, Dr. Jeff Shuren, is the executive sponsor of the work. My role in being here is to gather input for the relevant CDRH sources prior to the meetings and communicate publicly available information from our center to the community that is pertinent to the community during these meetings. Also to share publicly available policy and scientific expertise, regulatory perspectives during these meetings, sharing relative information back to our CDRH parties. And so I'll bring also the right folks to the table from the center, in addition to my participation on the liaison role as needed for certain areas. And I do have a colleague joining me today, actually, who will be following me. Next slide, please. So as we walk through the timeline of where we've been and where we're headed, I mentioned in 2019, FDA recognized NEST as a collaborative community. Certainly work ongoing towards, continuing to build up relationships, partnerships, and getting NEST to where we all want it to be. After the launch, we saw recognition. We saw the launch of the NEST Collaborative Community website in 2020. October of last year marked the kickoff of the UDI work stream under the collaborative community. And then we saw, the collaborative community have a public comment period open in March of this year, where there's an announcement that there's going to be a study conducted on the uptake of UDI by health systems. And today marks our think tank, or our second annual meeting, developing the short and long-term goals for device identification, which is going to be informed by preliminary study findings, some early readouts, and which you'll hear about today on the study, with a target release of that study on the uptake of UDI targeted for next year on the report. So I'm excited about our goal-oriented working meeting today, as it will provide positive movement towards addressing the questions of impact and outcomes of a collaborative community. Is the collaborative community advancing collaboration maturity? What impact is our collaborative community having in the focus areas, and how well is the collaborative community contributing towards achieving the members' vision? So, and next slide, please. And just a little bit of context about, the importance of the work that we're taking on. As we look at the NEST ecosystem, customers on the left here, the constellation of customers with the coordinating center on top, and working closely with the network, 16 network collaborators through a common platform, as well as leveraging kind of an analytic cores to be the engine of the analyses. Next slide, please. So as we talk about a platform, some common elements that we need for a platform is that, the unique device identification. Device identification is crucial for us to be successful and really harnessing evidence from clinical experience. need to be able to aggregate the data. Working on a common data model is going to be very crucial, as well as ensuring that there's data quality assurance. Next slide, please. And so what we're talking about today is the key components, right? Device identification, and really, widespread integration and utilization of UDI enhances the analysis of devices on the market by providing a standard and a clear way to document device use in electronic health records, clinical information systems, and claims data sources, registries, and beyond. A more robust post-market surveillance system can also be leveraged to support pre-market approvals or clearance of new devices and new uses of currently marketed devices. So as you can see, and as I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, everyone recognizes that UDI is a key component for optimizing studies, leveraging evidence from clinical experience. So let's dive in. I'll hand it over to my colleague, Indira Kunduri, who will touch on the current state and provide a look ahead at device identification from an FDA perspective. Indira is Deputy Director within a division of Market Intelligence within the Office of Regulatory Programs, also in the same super offices as I am, OPEQ within the Center for Devices and Radiological Health. So I'll hand it over. Thank you.